Welcome back. In today's Dungeon Design Drive-By, we're going to take a look at Act 3, the final act of the one-shot I like to call Kill the King. I'm Mark William, and you're watching Drive-By D&D. After players cross the bridge, you hear the sound of what could only be the king's carriage and his armored entourage marching your way. Approximately 120 feet ahead, two black horses pull a royal carriage forward through the thick forest and come into view. 4 knights and 10 crossbowmen are doing their best to maintain a tight formation along the narrow, uneven trail. Okay, so that was the setup for Act 3, Scene 1, the Royal Convoy. So remember, each scene is broken up into setup, twist, and lead. Now, since this is the last act, there isn't really going to be a lead because this will be the end of the one-shot, and the twist is actually going to come a bit later because hopefully at this point, this is going to lead to a combat encounter. So remember, your players have, met the Nameless Woman, have been gathering clues about who this king is and basically what he's up to. They've encountered the knights, maybe that was a positive encounter, maybe it was a negative encounter. They found the Maxine and Hugo hanging from the tree with a sign, basically saying that they were hanged for petty crimes. And they've learned about some environmental features that maybe can help them stop the royal convoy, which should be an overwhelming situation for them to overcome. So, having done all of that, hopefully the players are feeling like, yes, they are going to find some way to tackle the king. Now, the minute they cross the bridge from Act 2, Scene 1, once they cross the bridge and move on the path, that's when they are going to see the royal convoy coming into view. Now, it's important that you give your players a bit of time to develop a plan. So hopefully, as I said, their intentions are to assassinate the king because they've seen some evil things that he's done. Now, this is an opportunity where they might hide, set up an ambush, maybe they come over here on these cliffs, drop some rocks over, maybe they fall back, lead the carriage over the bridge that they've maybe set up to be destroyed. You want to give them a little bit of time to figure out an actual plan to tackle this oncoming force. So give the players time to do that. And basically, for however long you want to give the players, the carriage will be moving, maybe 30 feet, 60 feet at a time, going down the path. And so again, there's that time there for them to develop a strategy. So hopefully, however they do it, or again, maybe they charm the guards and somehow figured out some other way to get access to the king. In the game I played with my party, because they had a decent encounter with the knights and they didn't really explore or use any of the terrain features, or it didn't click in for them to maybe use that against the convoy. They didn't find Cutthroat the Black Dragon to help them fight these overwhelming odds. So they actually just walked up, persuaded the knights who questioned them as they approached, and basically were just moved on. Basically, my party chose not to kill the king. They just let him go. So you have to be okay with whatever the players decide to do. But hopefully, again, it does lead to a confrontation. Another important feature here is the 10 crossbowmen or the 10 other guards that are with the convoy should be, you should hint to the players that they are actually wearing cloaks of a different color, if you get my drift, and could potentially turn on the knights and the king as they are hired mercenaries. So again, you want to give the players ways to even the odds. So all those little things will help. Now, if the party does fight, destroy the convoy, that's when you're going to throw a little curveball at them, because inside the carriage is Sorceress Shalagra, and the king's elite bodyguard, who I call Rig Hill. And basically, after an intense fight, maybe they just got through tooth and nail, or maybe they used cutthroat and just like burned everyone to a crisp, or they just somehow, made the mercenaries turn on the knights. This is when hopefully they're worn down, they're depleted, and you throw at them, basically, an intense sorcerer with magic abilities that's going to give them a lot of trouble, and an intense warrior who is the last stand before they get to the king. So make sure that the players don't get to see the king during this phase. Make sure that it remains hidden, because after they defeat Sorceress Shalagra and Rig Hill, that's when the twist is going to come in this scene. And it's actually basically the cornerstone of this entire one-shot. Everything builds to this one moment where they find the king. So I'm going to read the twist, and we're going to see what happens for the conclusion of this one-shot Kill the King. When you open the king's armored carriage, you see a young boy, a child no more than 10. His face pale, his golden crown barely fits on his head, and he recoils in fear at the sight of you. Tears are streaming down his face. Okay, so that was the twist, and it's actually the most key, pivotal moment of this entire one-shot. So remember that the players are foreigners in a strange land, and they really don't have, or hopefully you haven't given them a clear-cut picture of who the king is. They've just been gaining clues. And why is this important? Because the king can be whoever you want him to be. So as the DM, I would play this whole scenario and not have a solid picture of who the king is, but we'll base it off what the players do. So remember, the players have met the nameless woman, who was obviously beaten and abused by the king. Depending on how they dealt with the knights, maybe the knights were rude, maybe the knights were actually just believed them or actually treated them decently and moved on. Maybe they had a fight with the knights. And they found the dead bodies of the children, and all those little clues, so that judge what your players are doing, so that when they do open up the carriage, it will be something maybe they're not expecting. And let's just remember, they just got into a big fight with the king's bodyguard, so maybe they've lost a soldier or a fellow player in that fight. Like, they should be down to their last breath almost, and then when they open that door, find something maybe they weren't expecting. So in this case, I chose to use a child to really throw them off, because throw in that moral dilemma. Are they gonna choose to kill someone who is potentially innocent and had nothing to do with some of the trouble that they've seen? So I also like the idea that the king can be anything, as I said. He's a blank slate. If the players have really, if the players got into that fight with the knights, then and they're really just talking about, oh, this king's a jerk, then maybe he is just a jerk king, and they're gonna get a lot of satisfaction out of just killing an adult king who is just a jerk, and it's gonna make them feel really good because they lost their friend in the battle, and so that could be the answer. I also like the idea that the king's just an old man resigned to his fate. Basically, he'll tell the players, I knew this day was coming. I knew this day was coming. Get it over with. And then I like that whole destiny idea. Like, oh, he was expecting them to kill him. And the nameless woman, like, how did this all happen? So that's a really cool thing for me. But also remember that if this scenario doesn't happen, just let the carriage moves on. They let the king live. That could also be used as sort of a lead for the rest of your campaign. The king gets away and ends up being a terrible, terrible tyrant that basically harasses the players from then on. And that was this moment was their best chance to kill him, but they let him go. I really like that idea. Or they do kill him, and that causes a ripple effect throughout the realm, and basically causes so much disturbance and so much problems for the players moving forward. So again, I think this is a good starter one-shot to maybe, build up a campaign with a new group, or just fit it into your campaign whenever you want to maybe spice things up a little bit. And that's kind of the gist of this whole thing. Okay, everyone, that was the end of Act 3 and the end of the entire one-shot Kill the King. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a few ideas that maybe you can throw into your campaign, or if you've got a new group, you can start your game with this, see where it goes. So if you liked all what you saw and you want to help support the channel, please subscribe. Feel free to leave comments, thoughts in the comment section below. And I'll be doing another Dungeon Design Drive-By soon, so check back for that. So thanks again, and remember, all D&D, all day long, all night till dawn. See you next time.